There is another world. Filled with evils greater than anything on Earth. We're the only ones who can fight them. When we stand together, we're unstoppable.
Everything dies. Let's begin with you.
Right? It is an RPG. It has all of those trappings of an RPG, but the thing that kind of separates us, though, the ways in which we are kind of changing the way that you're going to get this game delivered to you, is that the core of gameplay is a 4 versus 1 cooperative, mission-based gameplay system where 4 heroes are playing against one player-controlled Shadow Lord, who's essentially the next generation version of a dungeon master. They're controlling kind of the moment-to-moment dynamics of the game. They can possess creatures, summon creatures, they can drop traps and such. They can change the environment in a lot of ways. And so what that does for the players, for the heroes, is it provides kind of an ever-changing experience, something where it's surprising what happens every time because there's a real human being on the other side controlling what happens.
So is it like a full level? I guess what I'm asking is it's an environment that you progress through as a team, try to get to the end and fight the boss?
As I said, exactly. It's very much mission-based. Our target right now is something along the lines of 15 to 20-minute co-op experience. It's almost a dungeon crawl to some degree. What sets it apart in other ways is that we're actually set in the modern times. You wouldn't guess it just from the monsters there, but if you look at the characters, they're all wearing modern clothing. Right. So the setting of our game is very much you, me, other people here in the real world get pulled into this dark gothic realm of Embra. You're going to be battling in dungeons there, but you're also going to be battling the Shadow Legions when they come to Earth. So we're building levels that all take place in modern Earth as well. When they're in the dungeon, when they're in the realm, as we're calling them, they will be fighting against all sorts of enemies that spawn in there, but also against the Shadow Lord himself. So anytime you see someone running around with a blue glow over their head, that's actually a Shadow Lord. They possess the creatures, and then they have all of those creatures' special abilities. But because it's a real person, you know that they're going to be behaving totally differently, very unpredictably, and making it a different kind of gameplay experience each time.
So we're seeing all the heroes doing battle here, and at the same time, the Shadow Lord is doing what?
So the Shadow Lord is attempting to thwart them, right? The heroes are getting these big story missions that take place in sort of a solo instance. This is where all that Bioware stuff takes place. You have conversations with people, you get all this choice, you can flirt, you can have romance, you have betrayals, everything you expect from a Bioware story RPG. But then you're given a mission, and in this case, we're showing footage from an area called the Heretic Fortress. One of the missions is, you're told the Shadow Legions are opening a portal at the bottom of the Heretic Fortress. You need to fight your way down there and close the portal. The job of the Shadow Lord is to thwart you. So the heroes are trying to make their way to the end. There is a big boss fight. If they succeed, they've completed the mission, they've completed the realm, they get XP, they get loot, they get gold, they get all the great stuff you expect from an RPG. The Shadow Lord is also an RPG character. It levels up. And so the person playing the Shadow Lord is attempting to stop you, attempting to wipe the entire party. And if they do so, then they get a little bonus to their XP, to their reward, etc. But then everybody is a persistent character. So over time, that assassin that we're looking at, she's going to get different abilities, different loadouts, different equipment. And so she'll play differently the next time. The Shadow Lord is no different. So each Shadow Lord that you play has a huge number of tactics and abilities that they've unlocked over time as they've progressed, and they have to kind of mix and match them in a kind of limited way in one given realm. So today, you might run against someone who specializes in traps, spike traps like that. Tomorrow, you might run into someone, you might even be playing the same realm, for example, and instead of doing traps, they're all about summoning and possession. And so they'll have a lot of different creatures that they can summon in an instant and play as to change the way that the whole battle goes out for them.
Now the heroes, are they different classes?
Yeah, so we have, we've announced 6 classes. that the heroes can follow. They fit fairly into kind of standard archetypes of fantasy game or RPG game. There's a warrior, there's a wizard, there's a cleric, but each one of them has a very, very broad progression. So you can spec one way and say, I'm very much a person who likes to do a lot of damage, so I'm going to go with DPS spec even within my warrior. But as you progress, you might also unlock all of the abilities, all of the actives, the passives, and the equipment for a very tanky spec. And we actually allow you, every once in a while you'll see something that looks kind of like a gem they're all putting their hands on. Those are checkpoints. As you progress through a realm, when you run into a checkpoint, all of the heroes will actually have the ability to respec. They can say, oh gosh, I didn't know that the Shadow Lord I was going up against was going to play in this way. Let's change the party makeup. And so I was a DPS warrior, I'm going to a tank warrior. You were a direct healing cleric, you're going to go more to a party healing cleric. The same is actually true, however, for the Shadow Lord. When they hit a checkpoint, they get to make a choice of what their next ability is going to be, because the difficulty of the Shadow Lord sort of ramps up as you go through the realm. They start with just one ability, but they get their second, their third, and their fourth ability as they go along, and you have no idea what they're going to pick. You have no idea what their total choice package is because you don't know what they've unlocked. So each time it's a surprise. So the big glowy blue guy, that is an elite monster. Some of them will actually just spawn within the realm itself. There's actually a lot of randomness just to the realms, apart from this whole Shadow Lord aspect. Each room has a bunch of dynamic aspects to it. What spawns, where they spawn. There are sometimes hidden hazards and traps within the level, doors that do and don't open, secret doors, destructible walls. That's one of the random elements, but the Shadow Lord actually gets to choose the bestiary. So if you like playing with the Fallen Warriors, those are the sort of zombie-looking guys you see there. If you like playing with the Hobgoblins, which you might see come into this area, the little short guys, those are very quick, very fast, hard to hit, slippery swarmers. You get to choose that at the beginning of the mission. And then you also have the ones you can summon on demand. So that big Bane Wolf was the one that was glowing blue earlier. Some of them might spawn on the level. You might have actually chosen that as an elite that you also can spawn at will. And it's a sort of a tactical thing. You think, right now is a great time to pull out my Bane Wolf, and it'll take them on. That's one of those checkpoints there. One of the great abilities that people have been having a lot of fun with as they played here at Gamescom, the version of the Shadow Lord we're allowing people to play with has a doppelganger ability. So he spawns, and he looks exactly like someone in the party. You have no idea that it's the Shadow Lord. He doesn't even have that blue glow over his head, and so he can run right along next to you. He can use the quick chat and say, hey, follow me. And so you might follow him, and he can bait you into a trap that he's already laid before.
So we're playing as the Shadow Lord now.
Right, so this is from the Shadow Lord's perspective. He's possessed one of the Fallen Warriors there. You can rush ahead of people. He can place traps. I think there's sort of a gold thing off to the side. Those are the hazards that kind of randomly spawn in the level. He's setting those up to be triggered now when a hero runs across them. But since he's out of, he just dropped a bomb as well. But here he's possessed a creature, and he is inside this Bane Wolf. He has access to all of their abilities. They have a couple special abilities, being an elite. But when he gets to the final fight, the boss fight, he'll have 4 different special abilities, very much like one of the heroes. And as I said, you'll see a lot of emergent gameplay. Oh, there he is. He's being a doppelganger. So until he gets hit, he does not glow. But since they did damage, he's exposed. But he has all of the abilities of that wizard who he doppelganged or duplicated.
Sure.
So he'll be very, very powerful, and you want to focus on him and concentrate on him.
Can you customize your heroes?
You absolutely can. So over time, obviously it's an RPG, so we're going to let you collect all sorts of cool new gear. Another part of that whole we're in this modern world crossover is that these people are still very modern dress, right? But you're going to find pieces that are much more artifacts of the Gothic realm. You'll put on cool armor pieces that mix and match with modern stuff. So one thing we say is at some point in time you'll be a machine gun wizard. You might be a punk rock warlock because it rhymes and sounds cool. Like you're going to be able to kind of mix and match both how you look, but then more importantly, how your class plays.
Now what about the Shadow Lord? Can you customize him?
Absolutely. Nice. So it's the same sort of thing. Every player is going to have hero avatars as well as a Shadow Lord for the heroes. You also have these trauma kits that are essentially revives. If somebody gets knocked totally down to 0 hit points, there's a timer that appears above them. You have to run over and bring them back to life. If you run out of trauma kits, then the next time someone gets killed, they're out. And the Shadow Lord, that's their goal, is to tap everybody out. If you make it to a checkpoint, you can sometimes revive people who've fallen behind you. But generally speaking, if you're down for the count and no one revives you in time, you are hoping they make it to the next checkpoint, or they're down 3 players against a Shadow Lord, and then they're down 2 players against a Shadow Lord. We've seen some heroic players solo the Shadow Lord in the final fight, and everybody wins, and they're like, amazing. But because it's an action game, there's actually a skill element, and so as you progress, that's not going to be the only factor in matchmaking. There's also going to be a skill factor, sort of like an under the hood rating system. So if you're a really good Shadow Lord, you might only be level 20. You might be going against level 30 heroes because you perform so well. Whereas I might be terrible at the game, but I've been playing for a very long time, so I'm level 50. I might be playing against level 40 guys because we want to make it actually a relatively even match in terms of skill and quality of play.
Will there be private matches?
Yeah, so the main game, we want to be sort of in this live matchmaking system, but we certainly want to support custom matches. We haven't exactly hit on how we'll handle that in terms of progression. There are a number of games that do this, and you don't want to open that up to an exploitable state.
Sure.
And so we're going to make some alterations to the way you earn rewards there, the way you earn experience. But if you just want to play with you 4 and your other friend, if you want to play together and know who the Shadow Lord is, we'll let you do a custom match.
I see. What's this environment we're seeing here?
So this is actually the Shadow Realm. At the end of the Heretic Fortress, you have to pass through a portal and then fight the Demon King in the Shadow Realm, and that's how you kind of close the portal down. And so the way that particular level ends is you're running through this fortress castle, you come into this big dark cave, and then a portal opens on the ground, you jump through, and the final fight takes place in that sort of spooky, spectral Shadow Realm.
This is a pretty different game for Bioware. Where'd the whole impetus for this come from?
Well, what's interesting is our studio creative director is a guy named James Olin. And so if you're Googling right now, he was the lead designer on Baldur's Gate 2, Neverwinter, Knights of the Old Republic, Dragon Age, then Star Wars The Old Republic. He's been one of the lead designers kind of all along in Bioware's history. When Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter...
no.
Thank you.
Set in a modern fantasy world and featuring heroes that wouldn't look out of place in this room, Shadow Realms is the only online RPG that offers dynamic, cooperative 4 versus 1 gameplay. It's a story-driven game that pits you and your party against a player-controlled enemy, a malevolent force we call the Shadow Lord. The Shadow Lord controlled every aspect of the game, possessing, entrapping, and destroying with an insidious power. And you'll have the chance to play either as or against the insidious one, building experience and progression, whether you've chosen good or evil. Because this is a Bioware game, story is at its heart. Continuously updated story embedded in the online adventures, along with an ever-changing world, will ensure that no 2 trips through a realm will play out the same way. Beyond the story moments you'll uncover while fighting the Shadow Lord, the overarching narrative of our world will be released episodically, playing out over time like a great TV series, providing an ever-evolving backdrop to the player versus player action. Each new episode will be experienced together by the community as it's released. Community has always been fundamental to the DNA of Bioware, and so we want to build Shadow Realms with your help. Shadow Realms will be available for PC late next year, but those of you here with us today will be able to play the game immediately following the press release. The press conference, excuse me. And for those not here today at Gamescom, you can go to shadowrealms.com and sign up right now for a chance to get into our first closed alpha coming next month, where you can experience our innovative online 4 versus 1 gameplay. We couldn't be more excited to introduce Shadow Realms, our next great story-driven RPG, to the legion of Bioware fans around the world.
I'm Dallas Dickinson. I'm the senior producer on Shadow Realms.
Now, this is a bit different territory for Bioware. We're used to seeing like big adventure games and everything like that, but this is more of a 4 versus 1 sort of multiplayer experience. Tell us about it.
Yeah, the core gameplay is very much around this 4 versus 1 co-op experience. 4 heroes competing against a player-driven Shadow Lord. So a lot of the combat in the game, in fact, all of the combat in the game takes place in these cooperative matches. But there's a whole other aspect of the game, which is the story, all of the other things that you do in a standard RPG, your progression, choosing new abilities, going to vendors, doing crafting, that all takes place in a single player instance. And so you kind of go back and forth between that single player experience for your deep story and your choices, and then to get into the actual gameplay, to earn your experience, to earn your gold, to earn your rewards, you jump into the co-op.
Now tell us a little bit about the characters. You got like an assassin, and it appears there's a guy wearing a tie. It was like he came out of the office.
Yeah, so that's our wizard class in this particular build. But the point is that these are all modern people, right? People like you and me who have awakened to powers within them. And so this wizard happens to be a guy who has a white shirt on and a skinny tie, a little bit of hipster look there. But over time, you're going to find new gear, new clothing. So you can actually end up looking like anybody. There's no reason why you might not be wearing a hoodie just the way that our assassin is. There's no reason why you wouldn't actually be in bomb squad gear if you chose to play that way. Or later on, as you find gear in the dark gothic portion of the game, you might actually have some armor. So you might have actually like real plate armor, shoulder piece mixed with your hoodie and all that.
Yeah, see, not everybody's crazy about a hipster wizard. So
Exactly.
So now it is 4 versus 1, but it's not like direct, like say an Evolve. This is actually something where the 4 players are competing on their own quest, where the 1 character is actually competing on their own.
Right, exactly. The Shadow Lord is trying to thwart the players as they progress, but their co-op mission is not to kill the Shadow Lord. Their co-op mission is very much what you expect from an RPG. We're trying to get to the bottom of the dungeon, to rescue the something, to find the X. Whatever mission you've been sent on is very much almost like a dungeon, a module in Dungeons and Dragons speech, where you're trying to finish this really cool mission, but there is the Shadow Lord who is changing the way the game plays, changing the moment-to-moment dynamics of gameplay all the way throughout.
Nice. Now, actually, with the 4-player, obviously it's important to have co-op support because you got to watch out for traps, and if anybody like dies or anything like that, you got to make sure they have potions, all that, right?
Exactly. So there's a whole revive mechanic. If one of your friends goes down, you have to find them, bring them back to life. You have a limited number of trauma kits, which is our revive option. So the Shadow Lord is actually trying to knock out all of your trauma kits, knock out all of your potions so that they can actually wipe the party. So that's their goal. Their goal is to destroy you. Your goal is to keep your party alive, get to the end, defeat the boss, and complete the mission.
Do you have a particular favorite character here, or do they all like reflect something special with you?
Well, each class is different. They change all the time. Again, as I said, it's an RPG, so like our wizard is not the only wizard you're going to play. There's a whole lot of progression, and you can choose to play a wizard this way or that way. Currently, I like our Shadow Lord classes. We're only showing one here today, a very specific build, but you can kind of go as like, I'm the Fire Shadow Lord, or I'm the Trick Shadow Lord, and that is just a fun form of gameplay for me personally, where you're kind of trolling people secretly.
And this game is actually episodic. You're actually going to like have the story evolve as it goes along, new chapters, and basically just tell like what's going on with these characters, right?
Exactly. So yeah, let's start with a pilot episode that gives you, you understand who you are, establishes you as the hero in this world, introduces all of the really interesting NPCs who you can flirt with and romance, or who might betray you at some point in time. But then over time, we're going to be dropping new episodes. So new story comes out, and then you're going to experience that story with your friends and with the community, just like your favorite TV shows. So a new episode happens, we all play it the next Monday morning around the water cooler. We're like, did you play the new episode of Shadow Realms? That just happened. I didn't know that was going to happen, and there's a mystery. What do you think that means? All the kind of stuff that we love to do with TV shows right now as fans of that genre and that space, you're going to be able to do with Shadow Realms.
Previously on Shadow Realms.
Exactly. You might recall from Season 3. Yeah.
Finally, we know the game that is announced for PC, but it looks like a very action-oriented game that could also work on consoles. Would you like to see the game expand yet, or is it just?
So it's the game is built in Frostbite, and it is very much built so that actually controller gameplay is supported. Right now, we're showing it for PC mouse and keyboard. It's at least partially because I've made it so we as an office are not allowed to play with the controllers because we need to make a really good mouse and keyboard experience. But we have a few people, our art director, who actually plays with the controller anyway because he just likes that. So the game is set up for that. We're only announcing PC right now, but we're in a position where if it seems like a good choice, we could consider other platforms.
Well, we're certainly looking forward to it. When's this coming out?
We are currently saying end of next year as a window. So we're at least a year out, but it's looking good for us.
Absolutely. Thanks for talking to us, and keep up with the hipster wizards.
Thank you very
Renee
much.
Here. I'm with Dallas, the senior producer at Bioware on Shadow Realms, and I finally got to get some hands-on time with the game. You just announced it, and you guys are doing something a little different as far as like the traditional Bioware RPG is, but it's still got some of those core elements you were speaking about.
Exactly. So at its heart, it's a Bioware RPG. It has all those things you expect. It has a great story, really cool NPCs, people that you can have relationships with and betray or flirt with. It's an RPG progression game, so you're going to be going on cool adventures, getting cool loot, leveling up, choosing new abilities, all the stuff you expect from a Bioware RPG. But we're doing a couple things a little bit differently. The first one is the way we're delivering our story. So even though the story is very much a Bioware story, you make cool choices, they change the way that people react to you, they change the way that the story plays out, we're delivering it episodically. And what that means is new episodes are going to actually roll out throughout the year, and players are going to experience the story moments, these new missions, as a community, very much like your favorite TV shows. At least that's the inspiration for it, that you and I watch it or play it ourselves over the weekend, and we come into work on Monday and we're like, oh, did you play that? Oh, that was this totally unexpected thing that happened, and I think this thing just got established as a mystery. What does that even mean? And wasn't that guy dead? Did he come back to life? What's going on? That kind of thing that we all enjoy about TV shows is the way that the story is going to be delivered, so that it's actually a social experience of being a part of the story as it unrolls over time.
So that episodic storytelling, is that a single player experience, not like the multiplayer experience we saw here today?
Exactly. So we sort of, we like to think seamlessly transition between single player and multiplayer. When you're doing the story, it's a single player experience. You're making your choices, you're talking to people, you're choosing who you like and don't like, you're doing all those things that you expect, again, in a Bioware game with the story experience. But at the end of a conversation, you might be given a mission. This person says to you, you really need to go to, in this case, the thing playing out behind us is a place called the Heretic Fortress. You've got to go to the Heretic Fortress. The Shadow Legions have created a portal at the bottom of the dungeon. You need to fight down there, seal the portal, and defeat the Demon King. So you're sent on a story mission, but then the mission actually plays out in this multiplayer co-op sense. So I join the mission. There are players who either are on a story mission or aren't. They help you finish the mission. At the end, you get all your cool rewards. You go back to the Fortress of Avalon, which is our single-player instance kind of hub, and that's where you finish the mission and conversation. You go back and you say, hey, I sealed the portal. Didn't I do a good job? And the person says, no, you're terrible.
Everyone's just terrible.
Everyone is terrible. I don't write the story. That's why that was the worst story ever.
Well, I thought it was really interesting how you had mentioned that you guys have not really seen anything like this before, and it really is a unique mashup between like top-down action RPG combined with, you know, more traditional role-playing, and then the setting itself, like these fantasy elements, but in this modern world. I mean, how did you guys kind of come up with the concept of we want to bring tabletop into like a modern RPG?
Yeah, and I think that was the core inspiration, was that there are these aspects of tabletop gaming that we all love. We've been playing tabletop gaming for many years. I'm a little old, but we all love the cool co-op aspect of tabletop gaming. We all love that idea of there being a real person who's changing the moment-to-moment dynamics of the game. The dungeon master, game master, in our case, the Shadow Lord, who can really change at any moment's notice what's happening in combat, the way the level is working, all sorts of stuff that are surprises for players. And that was always a great part to me of the tabletop experience. So that was the core inspiration. The Shadow Lord and 4v1 dynamic, I think, came out of that. The setting, though, I think was sort of an independent thing. We were more talking about, like, hey, Bioware's made all these great high fantasy games, these great sci-fi games, some of the best known RPGs in those two spaces. We've never done a modern fantasy game, and modern fantasy is a huge thing, right? It's a huge genre in fiction, it's a huge genre in television, in film. It's one that there actually hasn't been as much in video games, and specifically in RPGs. And so that was just kind of an exciting new, like, why haven't we done this before moment that offers us these really cool opportunities of having, you know, guy running around in a white shirt with a skinny tie, but firing lightning bolts, and a person wearing like a modern bomb squad suit, but with a giant battle axe. Like, really cool juxtaposition of the modern as well as this kind of dark gothic fantasy.
It's really difficult to understand until you actually get to see it and play it for yourself. I remember when you guys made the announcement, I was like, I have no idea what this game is.
It is, and it's one of the challenges. It's part of the reason, honestly, why we're sort of taking this big players first mentality, but like get people's hands on the game. When you just read about it, you probably have expectations that are based on games you've played before. This doesn't play like a game you've played before. Even the idea of this Shadow Lord, I think people actually picture more like a dungeon master experience, and it's very different. You're in the mix. You are possessing creatures and you're playing as them, and so for you it's an action combat game as well, and then you can pop out and do tactical things, but until you get your hands on it, I can't just point to a game and say, oh yeah, it's just like that game, only we have swords and funny hats. Like, there's no simple analog to what we have here. And so we handed it to players. We announced it, and that day we had players in Germany playing the game. This is the first announcement of the game, or the first show of the game here in North America. We have a lot of ideas about how this is going to work, but we don't know that we're right. We need people to play it and give us their feedback and be like, I didn't understand that. That actually plays really well. It's really, it's our whole philosophy is to let the players in and be transparent about how we're building the game. This game is very much built with that Bioware tradition. Our studio creative director and the guy behind, I think, the Shadow Lord concept, as much as our lead designer at Gabe Matangelo, is our studio creative director James Olin, and he was the lead designer of Baldur's Gate and the lead designer of Neverwinter Nights and the lead designer of Knights of the Old Republic, Dragon Age, and Star Wars: The Old Republic. Like, he's done a few things. He's done a few games you might have heard of, right? And so he really understands how the Bioware games work. He understands the way to do the story part of the Bioware games, but to then take it into this new space. And so it's great to kind of have that tradition of Bioware behind what we're doing, but we're trying to do some new stuff as well.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things I thought of when you were giving the presentation earlier was a hallmark for fans of Bioware are sometimes these moral choices that your characters have to make and how that affects the ultimate meta game. And in multiplayer, I was interested to know the RPG character that you're building in single player, how does that interact with these other RPG characters that your friends are possibly building, and then you all get together in the same space? Yeah, so it's a lot of what happens again in the story and the moral choice and the flirtations, romances, and the betrayals. That is very much a single player experience. We have found through some trial and tribulation that actually lives best when I'm getting to make all the choices for myself. And so all of that stuff takes place in that solo space. But then in order to do
do the missions. Again, sometimes I use like the metaphor of the city in a standard RPG. The city is where most of the NPCs are. It's where most of those other aspects, where I sell stuff, where I train. But generally, at some point, somebody says, "Go out there. There are wolves," and you're like, "I guess I got to go out and find the wolves, and I need to do this important thing that moves my story along." But when I'm out there, I might have other people join me. I might have fellow adventurers who happen to be on the path and say, "Hey, I'm fighting the wolves." As I said, I'm not the writer, so just don't think that this game is about wolf hunting.
Would you compare it to raids?
I would say more along the lines of dungeons and operations. Flashpoints is another term that we've used. They're much shorter combat missions. They're much shorter gameplay experiences with that co-op nature. They're dynamic every time, which is, I think, different from what people think of when they think of massively multiplayer online type games, because of all of these aspects that change. The layout of the dungeon can change in certain ways. The actual spawn throughout the dungeon changes based on choices the Shadow Lord makes. What happens tactically is totally different because there's a Shadow Lord who's changing all of the ways these creatures interact and where the traps are and all that sort of stuff. So it's a little bit shorter than that. It's maybe not that complicated in terms of like ridiculous puzzle fight dynamic stuff, which again, I love ridiculous puzzle fight dynamics, but it takes a long time and a whole lot of commitment, whereas we're actually aiming for like 20-minute experience. You're like, hey, I want to play a cool match, I have a cool story mission, I'm going to play through that story mission and have an awesome match. Did I like it? Cool, I'm going to play it again. I might play 10 matches tonight because I have many hours that I really want to commit, or I just played one mission, it was really fun, and I'm done, and I can commit that time and really fit it into your schedule, your lifestyle.
Absolutely, and that's so important for gamers in today's super busy world.
Yeah.
Being able to sit down and have that connection with your friends, but have it be on a very limited timetable.
Exactly, and you don't need to schedule it 3 weeks in advance and say, we're going to get 100 people together in order to do this one thing. You're just like, I'm jumping online. Do I have a friend online? I'm going to invite them to group and we'll play together. If I don't, I still can have a really cool time matchmaking with just people who get put into the co-op mission with me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we played on PC here today.
Yes.
What other platforms is it coming to?
So all we're talking about right now is PC, but I will say it's built in Frostbite, which is a very good engine to go into other platforms. It also, many people noted, they're like, this plays like you could play it with a controller. You can play it with a controller. We're leaning into getting a really good mouse and keyboard experience, and then we'll let people plug the controller back in. I've actually disallowed them in the office, except that my art director still does it anyway. He still runs with it. But in any case, it's built for that, so that as we get further into development, and if we think it's a good idea and a good opportunity, then we'll consider other platforms.
All right. Well, thank you so much for talking with me about the game today. I had a lot of fun playing, even though I ultimately didn't win as the Shadow Lord.
It was very close. It was touch and go. It was.
But there's always another time to play. So thank you so much again, and we'll bring you guys more coverage of Shadow Realms right here on Game Trailers.
I have to ask you a question. What's it like when you've been kind of working on a game like this, sitting on it, and then today going live, having the announce, and having it kind of go from being something that only you know about to now the fans know about and people can start getting excited about?
It's exciting. You get a little bit nervous because you want people to be excited when they see what you've been working on. But I've been really impressed with what the team's been doing, and I had a great feeling about this game going into today.
Now, obviously, the history of Bioware, you guys are story, and that's always a big deal for you guys. Where does story fit into this?
Story is a big part of Shadow Realms. So much like any other Bioware game you've ever played, you're going to be able to create your own character, you're going to be able to name him and change his appearance, and then you're going to be able to adventure with him on an epic Bioware story that takes you through Earth and the world of Embra and introduces funny characters, has romance, and it's going to be told through the cinematic storytelling that people are so fond of. The cinematic, fully voiced storytelling where you make choices and those choices have impact, and your decisions are actually can be often quite momentous.
Now, you touched on something there that you're going to be into this world, and that world's quite unique because it's fantasy, but it's also kind of the world that we inhabit at the moment. What's kind of the thoughts behind that?
Well, right now we have two worlds, the world of Embra, which is a gothic dark fantasy world, and then, of course, Earth, which we're all very familiar with. So when we were trying to decide what kind of IP we wanted or what kind of world we wanted to develop, we felt that we had done a great job already with science fiction and with fantasy and with space fantasy, Star Wars, but that we hadn't really touched on modern fantasy. And modern fantasy is a very popular genre. You have everything from the Dresden Files to Harry Potter to Constantine or any Vertigo comic, and it's a big genre. There's a lot of fans out there, and we felt that it was time to build a game that really gave those fans something to play and enjoy.
Now, I mean, we heard the guys just cheering us a second ago. I mean, that's got to do something for you as well to go from kind of, you've had people playing at the game, you've had people playing obviously around the studio. What's it like to hear the first people behind us, actually their first response to a win, to something going on?
Oh, yeah, really good, of course, love it.
That's why we're here, and of course stick around because we're going to be doing some Q&A with you in a second, but for now we're going to head over to see Gabe, who's also here, who is the design director on the game, and that means that with Gabe we're going to be basically looking into that first taste of the game, which of course you're going to want to make. So I'm heading over right now, over this way, through this very busy room, and I'm joined by Gabe. Gabe, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. I'm really excited to first give some exclusive specifics, give some context to the game that we've been talking about.
Secretively, we've spoken about this game in the past.
We're
not allowed to say that. We're not allowed to say when we spoke about
Thanks
it.
a lot.
We definitely
You just got me in trouble.
We spoke about the game in the past. It's been something that everybody's been really excited about. What was it like for you today, knowing that this is the day? This is the day that you're going to be announcing, you're going to be putting it out there.
I mean, it's awesome. I love that I can talk about it and also just talk about it with friends throughout the industry. Because, of course, it's a strange thing with game development, how you keep it secret until you announce it. Unlike movies, people know when you're producing a movie, that kind of thing. So it's fun to talk about it.
Now, of course, I mean, this is a really unique kind of event because you're announcing the game and you're immediately going to, hey, let's get people playing, let's getting the Bioware faithful in here, getting them to have a look, getting their hands on, and of course they're playing. Tell me a little bit about what they'll be playing today, what the guys will get their hands on.
Yeah. So we're really early in the process. So what they're playing is sort of a snapshot of the combat gameplay, the core gameplay. We've got a group of 4 heroes that play in co-op. And these 4 heroes can be made up of, any combination of 6 classes.
All wizards.
All wizards. You can do all wizards if you want to do that. Okay. Today here, we've got 4 specific ones with 4 specific sort of sets of builds. But ultimately, there's going to be all kinds of abilities, all kinds of equipment that they can mix and match, tailored to their own play style. So a lot of customization, a lot of character and combat customization. And we've got the 4 players. They're just starting up a mission. Basically, I think on this screen we're going to have the Assassin. Assassin
is one of the classes being played by one of the team behind us. I believe if I check out here on my cards,
yeah, it's Assassin.
Have a quick look. I believe that Brian is playing the Assassin. Brian from the
yes.
Bioware team. So,
yes,
and he's
our
playing,
tech director.
He's tech director, and he's playing with the fans that have actually come down here.
Yeah, and you'll check out the Assassin here. So like I was saying, there's different gameplay that you can customize. The specific build that we're showing today for the Assassin is very much sort of a bob and weave type. She jumps in, does some damage, and she can jump out. It's, as you see, it's an action combat setup here. They're in Heretic Fortress as the level. They were in a solo instance where in the future when we have the storytelling and the episodic storytelling, that's where they'd get their mission. They'd have their familiar Bioware storytelling, their choices, their flirtations, etc. Then they would go on a mission and then they'd get matched. They can go by themselves and get matched with other players here in Heretic Fortress. And their goal is to get to the bottom of the fortress where the Shadow Legion has a portal they're invading from. And you want to defeat the Demon King and close that portal.
So basically they're going on what you could almost say is a kind of a raid. They're going on a journey together. A band of brothers are going to go on here, but somebody on the way is thwarting them.
Exactly. Someone is thwarting them behind the scenes.
I love saying it.
Good word.
So tell me a little bit about how they're going to have to work together and what kind of things they can expect to find. They're entering into a new area here.
Yeah, they're progressing through it. They're going through the dungeon. Now, things are spawning, but like you said, there's someone thwarting because we've got a Shadow Lord that's opposing them, and he can control the bestiary, what monsters are throughout. He can actually possess them and control them, which we'll take a look at in just a second.
Yeah.
We actually can move over there now if you want.
Let's go over and have a look because I love the look of this, but I really want to see who's doing the work. So
who's
I'm going to walk here
behind the
and
scenes?
hope that I'm not bumping into any of the cameramen because that would be rude. And then I will park myself right here. now, basically what we've done is we've changed from our 4 heroes, if it would, to kind of our 5th hero, but kind of a sinister hero, because he's trying to make life difficult for these guys.
He is. So here we have the Shadow Lord. And if you notice when we were looking at the assassin, you could not see this guy.
Yeah.
For the Shadow Lord, you control it just like a hero. You level him up, you get you customize abilities and equipment just like a hero. So there's all different types of play styles. But now, what does the Shadow Lord do then? Right? That's what you want me to say next.
Yeah, I'm excited about the fact that so basically there's a guy invisible running with your team the entire time who's basically just watching you play and going, I've got an idea how I'm going to make life difficult for you here.
His objective is to wipe the group, to stop them from shutting the portal where the Shadow Legion's coming from. And he's got tricks up his sleeve, like spike traps. He's got a skull bomb. This particular build also has a doppelganger where he can change into one of the heroes or a copy of one of the heroes, and he could ambush them.
That's really cool. Now, obviously,
he's sort of a trickster type of build.
So basically, you've got a whole bunch of abilities, weapons at your arsenal, and you're basically using them in the way that you see fit. You know, of your knowledge of perhaps the play types of the guys you're up against, or perhaps the area that you're in.
Exactly. It could be the bestiary, the monsters that are there, and you play according to that, or you get a build according to that. It could be your individual play style. There's a lot of customization that can go into what you do. And again, we have preset builds here, but basically when he gets the checkpoints, the Shadow Lord to be able to pick what his next ability is going to be. Here he's got a Bane Wolf he just possessed. So possessing monsters.
That's a big one.
That's
so
a
basically,
huge one.
He spiked the guys here, then he possessed a monster to actually go and do damage with them, almost as if he's just another player on there.
And you'll see his hotbar change. Well, he just got out of the monster, but when he possesses a monster, he gets their abilities. He can use their abilities, and he can sort of jump in between possessing and depossessing, and use his kind of Shadow Lord abilities or the monster abilities.
Very, very cool. Now tell me a little bit about kind of the area that he's in. I mean, this is something where he's moving around, he's entering into different rooms. What's going on there?
Here he can activate hazards in the level. So beyond the spike trap and the abilities that he can also turn on things and affect what's going on in the environment. So now would be a good time. It's a spitting fire trap.
There he goes and combines it there. That was a bomb that he set off as well after that.
What's that?
He set off a bomb then right after the spinning fire trap.
He did, but to be honest, it was a poorly placed bomb.
A poorly placed bomb?
Because they had already jumped away from the trap that he just sprung.
Just to give a shout out, that's Chris who's playing and made the poorly placed bomb. Just so there's no confusion for the people watching at home, there was a poorly placed bomb by Chris. It looks fantastic, and I was lucky enough to get my hands on it earlier, and it really does play very different to anything that I kind of imagine in the way of you're almost like a classic dungeon master of the RPG games of the past. There's somebody really out there who's kind of knows what you're doing and has an idea of what they want to do to mess this up for you.
Yeah, like James was saying, I mean, it was a big inspiration, the tabletop gaming that, it all comes from, it originates from RPG. It's a big inspiration. You're basically running a module. Not necessarily creating a module, but you're running one. And you have a lot of different options within it.
So here he knows they're all going to be coming up to go up the staircase, and he's placed down.
He missed it. They passed it.
A bad placement, but a good idea.
An
A for effort, but just execution was lacking a little bit there.
So they reached the checkpoint here, and it's something worth mentioning. So when all the heroes get to a checkpoint, they do get some more revive kits, which is how they co-op and, if someone goes down. And the Shadow Lord gets another ability as well. He's got the Bane Wolf ability now he can summon. And later in the game, of course, you'll be able to pick from whatever abilities you've earned and you've progressed.
And basically choose to customize the Shadow Lord the way you choose to play.
And how the match is going, right? It's like whatever's happening, and it's like, oh, well, the knight, or the warrior's acting this way, and the assassin's really bobbing and weaving, so maybe I want like a tar pit or something like that. So you choose the next thing. And so, again, I mean, the heart and the spirit of it is that spontaneity, that unpredictability that, again, harkens back to the tabletop. That's what we want to provide here.
And really
we're having
playing.
A blast. I'm so excited to be talking about this.
I'm excited about the fact that you're basically playing against your enemy, who's basically has his own AI and really has his own decisions and really can kind of be a pain in your butt along the way. It looks fantastic. It looks fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you so much, and of course, on behalf of everybody else who's watching, thank you so much.
One more thing, ShadowRealms.com. Sign up for the alpha. ShadowRealms.com.
Very, very, very important is that when you are watching this, that you make sure you get yourself onto Twitter and follow @ShadowRealms, I believe it is, and use the hashtag ShadowRealms. Reach out, get in touch, call out Gabe directly. I'm sure he'd love to answer any questions that you have. And of course, follow and make sure that you sign up to get involved with that alpha. It's already looking awesome at this stage. That's pretty exciting stuff.
Cool, yeah, and it's early, and like we were talking about earlier, players first. We want to get people into the alpha. We want to get players involved with the development of this game and where we go with it.
Well, I think that speaks a lot to what we're actually doing right now, because it is a really cool vibe in here. There's really people having a chance to play, have some fun, drink a beer, hang out with friends, speak to the actual guys behind it, the dev team like yourself, and get their hands on the game and say, hey, this feels right, this is fun. I think that's pretty cool. So I really
You
thank
should
you
talk to some of them.
Yeah, for sure. We'll get them all up. I believe now we're going to have a couple of guys here from the player side.
I'm good.
Let's see who we have now. I think we have somebody that's coming to join me with a mic. Hello.
Hi.
What's your name?
Maite.
Maite, it's lovely to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Now, you have been lucky enough to get your hands on the game already today.
I have, yeah.
So there's probably a lot of jealous people watching at home, and they're very eager to hear the first words that come out. What was your experience?
My experience was, it's crazy chaotic, but it's so much fun. I can't wait to play it again.
Well, I'm sure that if you're really nice, after having come up here and stand and talk to me, you should be getting back up to have a little bit more play.
I hope so.
Now, you speak about the craziness and the chaos, two things that are always awesome to have in a video game. Do you mind me asking what you played? Do you remember that?
I played the Warrior.
Okay, I played the Warrior too. How did you like that?
I liked it a lot. I'm usually, most MMOs I play tank class, so it was really for me.
That's close right there. And did you get to use any of the abilities of the Warrior in that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got a nice cleave attack, so you hit a lot of enemies.
It feels like you're doing combos when you're kind of swinging around and you're laying into people. I really like that feeling
I really
as well.
like the charge as well. You can just rush through the enemies.
Did you manage to use the dodge as well? Because especially when I was fighting the wolf-like creature in later points, I found that rolling through his legs was brilliant. But that was me.
I tried, but I wasn't very good at it yet.
Absolutely, you got the time to practice it right now. This is the moment.
We died on the wolf, unfortunately, but.
Well, next time, go through, see how far you can get.
We will, yeah.
Maite, thank you so much for taking the time to talk. It's a real pleasure. And of course, get back, play some more. And I think we have somebody else we can talk to. So these guys, of course, it's okay to be jealous and say, hey, I wish I had a chance to come up and play. What you need to do is get over to Twitter, follow @ShadowRealms, and of course, use the hashtag, get involved, get signed up, and you'll be part of the alpha very soon. Sir, thank you for joining me. What is your name?
Matthijs.
Matthijs, it's lovely to meet you.
Oh, thanks.
How is it being here at this Bioware fan event with literally hundreds upon hundreds of fans that came here to get their first look at the game today, right now at Gamescom?
It's very excitable. I'm like, it's my first time here. So many people. And even when you're just walking on the street, you see all those different persons with like certain t-shirts. You're like, you're going to Gamescom. Yeah, I know it. Great.
Gamescom is a great vibe, and any time that a team like Bioware does something like this, I mean, it's got to feel good for you to be able to come in here and immediately be sitting next to the designers of the game, people that are working on it day in day out, and they've been working for for years on this game, and now they're bringing it and showing it to you. What's that like?
Well, awesome, of course, yeah.
A perfect answer.
Yay.
It would have been terrible if you said anything else. You played the game.
Yes.
Do you mind me asking what you played?
Mage.
And how was that?
Well, awesome, of course, yeah. What I really liked about the Mage is, well, it's a chaotic game, but you have to balance between just hitting or having a good position to throw a firewall or throw a fireball out there and do lots of damage. And I like that you have to be tactical, but you can also just go for rushing. It's nice.
The kind of, it's easy to get in and just do that button mashing and have some fun, but you can imagine kind of, hey, if I start to have a little bit of theory with my friends.
Exactly. If I stand over there, then I hit 3 more guys. That's better. And yeah.
Now, what do you think about? I mean, obviously, it's a big deal. This kind of this Shadow Lord, the guy who's basically in the Shadow Realm with you and basically making your life difficult.
He's a pain in the ass, yeah.
and has so many cool abilities. That's the thing that really blew me away, especially because he has the abilities that you can choose and customize, but when you go into any of his like minions, they have abilities as well. So are you interested in playing that?
Yeah, of course. And I really like the customization of that. just played a few minutes and I saw so many different traps. It's not just one explosion at the other. Sometimes it's like razor blades coming at you or spikes from the ground. It's great. It looks good as well.
It really feels like a dungeon where somebody's kind of like, making life difficult.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Matthias. I'm sure that, again, there's a massive queue forming here for the people watching at home. You can see them literally lining up. They're all happy waiting to play the game. Thank you so much again. And we're going to head over. Oh, no, I believe we have one more, please. Everybody wants to share their opinion. That's good. That's what we want. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm very good. How are you?
What is your name, sir?
Louis.
Pardon, sir?
Louis. It's
Louis.
Dutch.
Louis. It's a beautiful name. Ben je Nederlands?
Ja.
Hello. Hoe is het met jou?
Zeer goed, dank u.
Super. Louis, well, thank you for joining us. And, of course, thank you for being here. I have to ask, what's it like? What's it like being here?
It's one word, awesome. It's mind-blowing. It's you walk in here and you see the screen with Shadow Realms written on it, and you go, I'm gonna see all the new stuff, I'm gonna hear all the new stuff that's never been released, I'm gonna play the game, and it's like, yes, I want to play the game, I'm so excited.
Now, I have a question. Are you a Bioware fan? Have you played other Bioware games?
I know other Bioware games. I didn't have played them yet, but I have friends who play them. So
you've been following the process, and what brought you to being here today, right now? Because obviously they announced this morning, and you're going to be playing it this afternoon. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I just played it already. So.
And how was it?
It was awesome.
Another awesome.
Yes,
this is like our fourth awesome of the day. I'm liking it. That's going to be the word of the day.
Word of the day, awesome.
So what did you play?
I played the Cleric.
The Cleric, okay.
Yes.
And how was that for you?
It was new, because normally I'm a tank or a DPS. So I played Cleric, and you have to alternate between hitting and healing. And you have to make sure that everybody in your team doesn't die. So it's kind of a big responsibility, but it worked out.
Now I played as the warrior yesterday, and I actually have to admit I died a lot. that could say something about my abilities, or it could say something about just the way that I was playing. Either way. And I was helped a lot by the Cleric. Is that something you like, when you get into that situation? Obviously, it's not what you're used to.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
So is that something that you kind of like getting involved with, being able to heal people? Is that something that interests you?
I kind of like getting all the enemies at me so I can tank, because I'm used to that, so I like it. But I liked also playing Cleric. That way you can stand back a bit and help others.
So can I go ahead and say that when you take your second play in a second, you might choose the warrior class?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
Pretty much.
Hey, Louis, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. And of course, please get back, eat food, drink beer, veel plezier, and enjoy more of the game. And thanks for being part of this.
Stop the car. You'll see.
It's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's not my fault.
Nightmares are real. This is how it always begins. There will be questions. The answers are coming. Stay strong. And you will get stronger. Control your fear. Let it guide you. Your power is real. And always changing. You've been chosen.